Good evening and welcome to our session this afternoon. This session will be looking at mental health of women 50 plus. And the genesis of this is basically for us who work within the non-communicable diseases space and mental health space. We realize there is little attention to women who are 50 years plus. I will be turning 60 next week on 14th of March. And to just, as a reflection on the life of women who are 50 plus, the challenges we have, the opportunities we have, of course, but leaning towards the mental health of women of this age, our responsibilities to our children and to our aging parents, those who are lucky to have them, our responsibilities at work, the changes taking place inside our bodies. For instance, menopause hits you and it hits you bad. Some of us sweat dozens. Life may have not turned the way you wanted it to turn. Our children may not be turning out the way they were supposed to turn. You are supposed to retire. You're not sure about tomorrow. And therefore, we, as a group of women working in this space, managing homes where we are having to address parents who are unwell or who are ailing, we thought it would be important to focus our first session on the mental health of women aged 50 plus. Also, if you think through the health system, and we have Gladwell Gadesha and Gladwell Gadesha and Nasri here. In the health system, it basically focuses on women 15 to 49. We all know that. Even when you look at, when you begin to look at reproductive health, we stop at 49. Beyond 49, what happens to us? That's when all these other challenges kick in. So today, we have a panel of women deliberately focusing on women issues. But these are women who have lived through some of the challenges we are talking about. These are also women who have held people's hands. These are mothers, these are daughters, sisters, aunties, but who have an interest in mental health space. So we have Dr. Ivan Jenga, who will introduce herself during her presentation. We have Dr. Gladwell Gadesha, Dr. Nasri Omar, my good friend Petronila Mabea, and of course, Monica Kinyanjui. As I said, they all will introduce themselves and take us through. But before I proceed, Monica, could I ask you to pray, please?
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we are thankful. We're thankful for how you've created us to be women, and the men who are here, the support group that are here, the men, we are thankful for you. We are thankful for Dr. Nyamongo being thoughtful of this segment of women who are not remembered, and yet they carry the burden of the burden of many caring parents, young adults or teenagers and children. And they go through difficult of different challenges, and yet they're not remembered. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to participate and to be able to have this conversation and be able to speak out and speak up about the challenges of being a 50-year-old woman and above. We celebrate Mary, who is soon becoming an year older, and we're thankful. We're thankful for her thoughts and her plans. We plan for the deliberations that we'll have. We pray for all the women who are in this panel. that we will have a meaningful discussion. We honor you and praise you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Please feel free to, participants, feel free to send in questions, comments in the chat function. We'll also try to address them in the process. I'd like to start by calling on Nasri. Nasri, if you could introduce yourself and maybe just start us off by reflecting on the mental health of women 50 plus from your position in the ministry. Over to you, Nasri. And could the rest please keep your videos on, Petronila? And Nasri, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mary. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Nasri Omar. I am a global mental health specialist. I work with the Ministry of Health. I lead on workplace wellness and suicide prevention for the Ministry of Health. And I'm glad to be here today. And I'm also part of the Africa CDC advisory where I sit with Dr. Mary as part of the advisory for NCDs, injuries, and mental health. So over to you, Mary. Should I go straight ahead, introduce and hand it back to you?
Yes, could I talk to Dr. Njenga? Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, participants and all the attendees and our panelists. Thank you, Mary, for this evening. My name is Eva Jenga. I'm a physician and endocrinologist taking care of people with non-communicable diseases, and mental health is one of the non-communicable diseases. So I'm really happy to be in this forum to discuss issues related to mental health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Gadesha?
Thank you, Dr. Mary, and good evening, everyone. My name is Gladwell Gadesha. I'm a medical epidemiologist by profession. I work at the Ministry of Health, where I'm currently leading the division of non-communicable diseases. Thank you, and back to you.
Welcome. We have Petronila.
Good evening, fellow panelists and also viewers. Unfortunately, I'm not able to have my video on. You'll excuse me. Petronila is a refired nurse and mental health champion. Today, I'm glad also to be joining this panel just to discuss these issues that I have experienced as a caregiver and also as one who has been a service provider in the civil service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we hear from Monica Kinyanjui?
Good evening, participants. Good afternoon for those who are out of the country. My name is Monica Kinyanjui. I'm the founder of Women for Dementia Africa, where I sit in as an executive director. My family has been affected by dementia for over 20 years, and hence the reason why I'm in the space of dementia. I sit in the board of NCD Alliance, and I also sit in the community advisory board of Brain and Mind Institute of Aga Khan University. Women for Dementia is a member of HelpAge because most elderly people are the ones, majority are elderly who are affected by dementia. So HelpAge, I sit in various working groups in HelpAge. I'm glad to be here. This conversation is timely. Thank you, Mary. Over to you.
Welcome. My name is Mary Amuyenzu Nyamongo. I'm the chair of NCD Alliance for Kenya. I also serve on the Africa NCD advisory board and also on the NCD Injuries and Poverty Network Steering Committee. But most importantly, I'm a woman who is 50 plus, who's gone through many changes. When we had a discussion yesterday with the team here, Dr. Njenga, your summary of what a woman of 50 plus goes through was very apt. Could you just take us through, give us a synopsis of the life of a woman when you hit 50? Over to you, Dr. Njenga.
Thank you, Mary, and happy to just give an outline, because there are so many things a woman, I am a woman over 50, and I've gone through quite a number of the things that we are discussing today. At 50, a lot of things in a woman's body change, especially in the reproductive system, and that's when all the hormones go amok. Of course, every part of the endocrine system seems not to be listening to the pituitary gland that is supposed to control it. And so there are so many things that come that sometimes the body does not understand. The ones that were supposed to be when you are in your reproductive age, before the menses start being irregular, your body was really running like a clock, very timed clock, timed system. You knew when things were happening. But when you hit from 45, for most people, between 45 and 55, that's when things go haywire. The ovaries start going dry. And of course, the ovaries, that's where you have the production of the estrogen, progesterone, and so forth. The pituitary, on the other hand, doesn't seem to be connecting properly, that the ovaries are going off. So it sets stimulation, and it's something we call follicle stimulating hormone, another hormone called luteinizing hormone. These hormones, they are trying to urge the ovaries to continue working, but the time is up. The ovary has had its time. It's time to retire. So unfortunately, these hormones that are sending those mixed signals are not just coming innocently. These give you a lot of symptoms. And that's the basis of what people say, I'm going through a menopause crisis, I'm going through a menopause period. This is when women you get this heat intolerance, they are sweating, they start getting anxious. These hormones also cause quite a lot of issues, including poor sleep, and they are responsible for a number of symptoms. Again, the lack of estrogen hormone then comes with also other symptoms that we see in people above 50, and that is bone weakness. And you find that women above 50 start having bone thinning, as we call it, osteopenia, and eventually osteoporosis. And of course, then there are other things. Estrogen is also associated, when it is in its normal levels, helps you even in the metabolism of other things like your cholesterol and so many other things, and even mood. So when it starts going down, then so many things, including mood changes. And I'm sure Nasri will mention some of the things about the mood things that come in. So even without any history of mental illness, a woman going above 50, or between 45 and 55, as you go into above 50, will have a lot of mental health challenges. And this is what we are trying to discuss here, because if you are not aware of this, there will be a lot of repercussions, not because you don't live in a vacuum. You'll be in a community, you'll be in your own home. So it's going to be a challenge to your spouse, to your children, to your friends, to your workplace. So until you understand this, I'll give you an example. A woman came to me, professional, she still works in a very high-end office, and she goes to present, do a PowerPoint presentation. Really, she's very clever, very good, and is happy with what she does, confident. And she starts presenting. It's actually June, so the weather is perfect. And all of a sudden, she just starts pouring water from her face. She's sweating, she is hot, and it's the most uncomfortable thing. And of course, that messes up her whole presentation. And you can imagine now, everybody comes to ask, Eva, are you okay? Are you feeling well? And of course, she's not sick. It's just one of those senior moments when then things refuse to listen to her body. So what I'm trying to say is that menopause is just one of the few things that happen. As we move on, I'm sure there are things that we can point out that really change the mental well-being of a woman, and especially if it is not addressed, and especially when it is so ill understood, both at home, at work, and everywhere else, and even by the very person who is going through it. So ideally, what we are trying to say here is that women at 50 and above, let's understand our body, let's understand the real hormone changes that happen, and because there are things that we can do about it to make these challenges less threatening. Thank you, Mary. I'll stop there and allow.
Thank you so much. And I'm sweating buckets currently. And just turning back to Gladwell, what's the relationship between physical health and mental health? Just briefly, could you allude to that? Because a lot of people are asking me, so what are the connections? Over to you, Gladwell.
Yeah, thank you, Marian. First of all, thanking you for including the aspect of physical health in this conversation, because physical health and mental health are interconnected, and you really can't have one without the other. So for women above 50 years old, you see that the level or occurrence of non-communicable diseases or chronic diseases become more common. And as Dr. Jenga has explained, it could either be due to just the aging itself or hormonal imbalances, especially during menopause, or also some lifestyle factors. Like when you take a look at the Kenyan statistics, we have more people or more women who have cardiovascular diseases. Those are diseases of the heart and blood vessels. We have also increased cancer among this age group, and the first one being breast, followed by cervical, and then colorectal, that's involving the large intestine. And also we have also esophageal, quite common among this age group. And then there's the issue of osteoporosis, again mentioned earlier on, where there is a weakened bone due to loss of calcium, and again due to hormonal balances. And then arthritis, where this is we have bone stiffness and also pain in the joints. If I can look at for example, hypertension, when you look at the age bracket between 50 and 60, actually half of the women in Kenya have hypertension. And then when you go above 60, the age of 60, it's 60% of the women will actually have hypertension. Hypertension basically, or high blood pressure, is when the body pumps blood at a constantly high level in the blood vessels. And it's usually known as a silent killer because at first you might not notice, but it can easily damage the heart, the kidney, or also lead to strokes. So these statistics don't really have to remain that way. There are things we can do to prevent. For example, just living a healthy lifestyle, just modifying the way you live. Having said that, the interconnection between mental health and physical health has been shown, and it goes both ways. For example, someone who has a chronic disease or an NCD, due to the stress of just or anxiety of that disease, knowing very well that it's long-term, they have to go to the hospital regularly, and then the increased economic burden also, because the medications are not also cheap, might actually result to one getting a mental health disorder such as anxiety or depression. And even it's been shown that even biologically, some diseases like diabetes, some diseases like hypertension also lead to decreased blood flow in the body, such that with time, your cognitive function, such as your ability to remember things easily, is not as before before you got the diseases. And then when I talk about the reverse, someone who already has a mental illness, they are also prone to get chronic diseases. And it's either due to maybe the lifestyle you may live, like someone who has depression might likely engage in lifestyle, like for example, alcohol taking. And alcohol drinking is one of the risk factors for these non-communicable diseases, be it hypertension, diabetes, or even smoking. All those results to non-communicable diseases. Also, there is the drugs one might be taking due to their mental health condition. Some actually increases the risk of some NCDs. But I think what I want to say is that even though there is that interplay, prevention on onset or the non-communicable diseases, or on the reverse side, mental health condition is also possible. So I think what I would want to emphasize is that regular checkup, especially for the women above 50, because that's when we have a lot of these diseases chronic diseases coming in is very important and should be the mainstay for these women. And if you already have the disease, be it the chronic disease or the mental health disease, adhering to strict guidance from your health provider or your medication is also very key to ensuring that at least you balance between the physical health and the mental health, because they are all equally important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, participants, if you have comments, please put them in the chat. We shall be turning to those questions in the process. Nasri, we've talked about physical and mental health. What is the status of mental health of women aged 50 plus in the country? Do we know what's happening? What can you add to what both Eva and Gladwell have talked about? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mary. And I think I'll just echo what Dr. Njenga talked about. It's hard to get data, especially for that group of 60. And I think, Mary, you mentioned that as well. Most data is looking at women above 60 years old. It's looking at young women, middle-aged women, which is 45 to 60. It's very difficult to get data. Actually, I didn't find any data from the African continent, which is very unfortunate. And the data I found was that a lot of it was for people aged 60 and above, and it was 14% of adults aged 60 and above have a mental disorder. And the most common is depression and anxiety. Women, of course, were at increased risk they had more depressive disorders than the men, which was about 1.5 times more. And also a quarter of the deaths from suicide was actually among people who are aged 60 years and above. So I think this is something that we've seen, and the data is global. What I'm quoting is global data. If you look at data which has been done in other parts of the world, like in Iran, Taiwan, India, it's showing high prevalence, especially of depression in middle-aged women, and also high prevalence of mood and anxiety disorders in women, more than the men and the older population. So there's also issues, there's incidence of neurological disorders is high, especially Alzheimer's, dementia, and I'm happy Monica is here. And most of the time, women or middle-aged women who have mental health conditions, they are not recognized and they are not treated. So there's a lot of under-recognition and under-treatment of this population, mainly because of also the stigma which surrounds these conditions, and also that help-seeking behavior that women might have. So I think this would be why there's high, incidence and prevalence of mental health disorders in this age group. I think it has been spoken about issues of menopause. Menopause affects women physically, and it also affects them mentally. And it also impacts on their quality of life. Women face several issues after the age of 50 or after the age of 45. Sometimes there's retirement. Then you lose your sense of purpose. Before there used to be, you had a vehicle, you had a bodyguard, you had a purpose, you had something to wake up to. Now you don't have that anymore. So what do you do when you wake up in the morning? So that's something which causes a lot of stress for a lot of women at that age. Also, your roles become different. There's a study which actually said that women complained of increased burden of roles. Now you have the role of being a spouse, you have the role of having children, having grandchildren, caring for your parents, even caring for your spouse. And then the age difference among the people that you're caring for has also been found to be a stressor, because you might be caring for small grandchildren, you're caring for young people, you're caring for your parents, and you're also caring for your spouse. Another thing was, which was bringing a lot of the mental health strain in this population, was a drop in income. If you are hustling, you can't hustle as much as you used to hustle. So there's that drop in income, financial problems, maybe loss of employment, the retirement also will cause a financial challenge in that population. There's also what, Mary, you've spoken about this, the empty nest syndrome. Your kids are all grown up, they've left home, you're all alone. And now you're alone, and probably, the companionship you're looking for. Maybe you are so busy with work and with your kids. Now there's that feeling of that the house is empty, there's no one around, and then and your kids have lived their life, now they're living their life, they're independent. And it brings an issue for the parents, because now they're all alone. And then weight gain, which is associated with menopause as well, changes in appearance, changes in the family structure. You lose your family unit. You had the family was mother, father, children. Now it's mother, father. If the husband has passed away, then the mother is alone. So that's also a stressor for women. And then social isolation, loneliness. And this affects actually a quarter of people, older people, that this is one of the biggest stresses that they have. Bereavement, your children will die, your spouse will die, people close to you that you love will die. And that will contribute to mental health issues in that population. Issues of abuse. Abuse is actually very common, and abuse happens. 1 in 6 adults experience some form of abuse. That's all the adults. And it can be physical, verbal, psychological, sexual, or financial. And a lot of this abuse is being reported, is being done by loved one, close family members. And this contributes to a lot of mental health issues in this population. Then we have change in living conditions, that you're not able probably to afford that house, or that house was, like those who work in government, it was government housing. Now you have retired, you need to move out. Where are you going to? Then poor physical health also contributes to this. I think this Dr. Gadesha talked about this. If you're physically unwell, you will have poor mental health. And then lack of access to quality support and services is a big contributor, leading to most women not being recognized, that they're not not identified early, that they have mental health problems, and they're not treated early. And then caring for family members, I spoke about this. And then husband having health problems is also a big stressor, or the death of the husband. Exposure to adversity at that age, loss in your capacity, intrinsic capacity. Before you used to do everything for yourself. Now you have to depend on people. Maybe now you're not able to drive, you need people to drive you. So it's, you're losing that independence that you had. So it's a big stress as well. Decline in your functional ability. There might be conflict at home as well. Family conflict, conflicts with your children, conflict with your spouse would contribute a lot to mental health issues in that population. I think in summary, I would say those are among the contributors or the determinants. But as I said, data on this is very little, it's very minimal, and I hope it's an area which research can take up. Over to you, Mary.
Wow. Hey, Nasri, you have just finished us. And I think when you sit alone, you may not think about all these things you've brought up. The fact that a quarter of mental health problems are in 60 plus. All these issues that you've brought up, bereavement, managing bereavement. Most of us with parents, our parents are sick. We are taking care of them. There's a friend of mine who had her sick father in the house and her sick mother-in-law. She's still working. She has children. She has all these stresses. Petronilla, please come on board and tell us, what do we do about these issues? What is going on? How can we manage this? Thank you so much, Nasri, and then the other two who have spoken. Petronilla, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mary. I want to ask ourselves, many times we've gone around and we find ourselves many people who are dissatisfied, either with fake smiles, if there are any, or sometimes you find people are just there not knowing, or rather not ready to receive you for a service. And probably this is the reason what Dr. Nasri has just mentioned. We have many of us who are so overwhelmed. I mentioned that I've been a caregiver. We are the firstborns in our families, and we've taken care of all our parents, both sides. And it's something that has not been easy. And I can tell you sometimes it can just be so overwhelming that you go out in your workspace and you find yourself, you are just bland because you are not as jovial, yet you are not aware if you are not intentional to be self-aware. And then you find yourself, you're just there and you're offering services. Most people in our society are dissatisfied people. Most of our people of our age, or rather this age, and even others, because as we are talking about the 50 plus, or the people who are caregivers to our aging and ailing parents, yes, we have the other category or the other population also having their own issues, which are overwhelming. Now, how about if we knew what is going around us, which I thank Mary for bringing this conversation today. Otherwise, creation of awareness of wanting to know what is causing this dissatisfaction, what is causing, and how can we deal with this dissatisfaction or deal with this issue, mental health issue that is coming as a result of caregiving. A lady friend of mine, one time, the children came to her and told her, "Mommy, we hope you've prepared for your aging." And this lady couldn't understand. She asked why? And the children told the mother, "Mommy, we've observed you. We've seen you taking care of our grandma. Our grandma has been with us for these many years in this home until she passed away. Looking at what you went through, we don't think we are ready to take care of you. So we are simply asking, have you prepared for your old age?"
Hey.
I know some parents or mothers would be mad with such a question. But one thing I really appreciate these children was they were simply telling the mother, "Mommy, you need to be self-aware. You need to know one day you are going to age. You need to know how to take care of yourself as you reach that age." And so today, we are going to talk about taking, or rather being self-aware, which simply means listening to self. And once you listen to self, what do you do? Do you just keep quiet? Yes, today I've woken up and I've had a very bad day, or rather, I've had a very bad night because my parent or the one that I'm taking care of had so much pain. I had to leave my bed to go check on them. I had probably to call a doctor to come in or something of the kind. So if you wake up and you listen to yourself, how you've woken up that morning, you find yourself, you're feeling tired. Tired because you were busy in the night, you didn't take care of yourself. At times you may just wake up, you find yourself, you are tired, but you had enough rest. I mean, you don't know, it's just you can't explain being tired, why you are being tired.
Mm-hmm.
Other times you may just feel, you may wake up and you're feeling sad. And other times, you just feel you have pain in your body. So saying that listening to self, which is listening to your body, what is your body telling you? My body today is telling me I'm tired, I'm paining. Take time if you are to be self-aware and also to take care of yourself so that you may give quality care to you, the person that you are taking care of. You require to listen first to yourself. And so I want us to think about when you're waking up and you found that you're feeling tired. You had enough sleep. You had also enough. You took care of all what you require to make your sleep comfortable. What is it that you probably need? Probably is waking up and doing an exercise so that you rejuvenate yourself. And so the importance of physical health, exercising so that you produce the stabilizing endorphin, or rather the hormones that stabilize our moods and also that make us energetic. When you wake up and you're feeling sad and you can't find anything that is making you sad, Sometimes taking care of the old ones, it can make you sad, because one thing you are looking at this lady. My mother was a very vibrant woman, very active, very clean. And one time she came after the death of my dad. One day she was brought here when she was very sick. She was so stiff that even putting on her clothes, we had to stretch her arms in order to have her put on her clothes. Even taking a bath was a problem. Yet this was a lady who was so clean and very conscious about her well-being. But this thing brought her down. It also affected me. So that if you have such an episode, yes, it is okay to feel that sadness. But when you're just feeling sad, unaamuka unasema, oh, nimeamuka na mkono mbaya. No, sometimes also it is important we tell ourselves, if you have done your best, it is not anything that is causing this sadness, like it would, that case of my mother really caused sadness in me. But if it is not, it's on a normal situation, wake up and tell yourself that you affirm yourself. When you affirm yourself, start claiming that you are strong. I'm a Christian, and what I do whenever I wake up and I'm not feeling happy, I tell myself, rejoice in the Lord always. And I tell you, rejoice. And I find myself starting and beaming up with joy, and I'm feeling good about myself. You tell all the good things about self. And so anytime that we wake up again, one thing for self-care, sleep is very important. Physical exercises, which I think Mary inducted me into, and I always thank her so much because it really does me well. Like those tired episodes, and I just wake up and I go running and jogging, I come back very energized, and the fatigue is no more. Many people would say, nimechoka sana, I don't feel like doing anything. And you sit there, you continue getting even more tired. But take time and do some exercises, and you feel energized. The sleep is very important. One thing I want to say about sleep, how do you sleep? And the use of alarms, which has also destabilizes our sleep. The transitioning of our sleep can also cause you not to have enough or energized day. So as you wake up and slowly affirm yourself and start the day pole, joyful and feeling good about self. Thank you. I have so much anyway, but thank you.
Let me go to Monica. Thank you so much, Petronilla. Feelings of sadness, feelings of worry. And I think just if we walk with our speakers, if we walk with Eva Njenga, come to Gladwell, come to Dr. Nasri, and now we realize that as a woman in our age, you really are transitioning, you're dealing with a lot of things in our society. Now, Monica has taken care of parents and family who have dementia. I want to give us just a few minutes to reflect on this, because my understanding is my father has dementia. A lot of us know people with dementia, and it would be important for Monica to just share her experience with this condition that some people really don't know how to manage. Over to you, Monica. And before Monica comes on, please write your comments. Panelists, please take a few moments, go to the chat. There are a few questions that you can answer and a follow-up. Monica, over to you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary. Yes, I've been in the space of dementia for a very long time. And it began with my mother. We were doing business with mommy. And she started forgetting where she parked her car, and she would get distracted. I think even Petronina has mentioned that she should forget little things like many times she would forget people. She would never remember the faces, even of our close sisters, especially if we stayed many days without seeing her. So that was very hard. And that was like 17 years ago when she passed on, because 2003 is when she was diagnosed with the dementia, the Alzheimer's kind of dementia. And being a vibrant businesswoman, it was so hard for me to take. She was my business partner. It was so hard for me to take that. So what I did at that time, I avoided her. I avoided her as a mom. I avoided her even in the business. I wouldn't go to her, and it was tough. So fast forward, I'm now currently taking care of her husband. That particular time, I never used to take care of her. It was this husband I'm caring for was taking care of her. And he's now assisted care. One of the challenges that we go through is the caregivers. They are very expensive in this country. And many other things that pertains care. But because of Women for Dementia, because of the challenges I went, our organization works in the low income. We have the low income areas like Mathare, where we have support groups that are ongoing. And there is to sensitize them about what dementia is, what it's not. It's not just memory, because they just say, they just group it as a disease for the older persons. And one of the challenges I see caring in the low income areas of Nairobi, and like the Mathare and Kibera, where we have support groups, is the little things we take for granted. Because we myself, we're able to talk about not having care. We are able to get caregivers, informal caregivers who are able to pay. And as I said, even if they're informal, they're still expensive. But in the low income, you lock your loved one in the house and you go to your places. By the time you come back, you have the children to think about caregiving. You have to think about the children. You have nowhere to meet a Petronina, a psychologist to help you see that you need to self-care, because you don't even have the strength, you don't have the energy. Your person has incontinence in the house, and it's just a sad situation. And one of the things we do as an organization is to help them in various ways, like in the incontinence, giving them getting support by having people adopt one mzee with dementia at a time. And it's not been there because you can't keep begging. Dementias of adult diapers are expensive, even for us buying for our loved one. It's so very expensive because it's not like the same as buying the children one. So dementia care is very tough compared to, because your loved one, I think Petronina mentioned her mom being very, very clean. I don't know if she had dementia, but the fact that she was clean, smart, you're watching your person cognitive and behavior change day by day, and it's not very easy to look at. So I know I was going to talk about the signs of dementia. I don't know if there's time for me to share about signs of dementia.
Maybe fairly quickly before we go back to the panelists again to share a few comments, to reflect on the issues. Yes, over to you.
Okay. Signs of dementia, like the common one is memory loss, difficulty in planning, doing familiar tasks. If you are cooking, you're not able to cook for a woman. If you are driving, you don't know where you've parked your car and you get agitated because you can't remember where you parked. Confusion of the time or place. You don't know whether it's January or February. Those are signs, whether it's January or February. You also make poor judgment. When you make poor judgment, like misplacing things, or pure financial judgment. And especially for the men, I find them when we see these support groups, we find the person who was a man, he ends up wasting a lot of his finances because he was going every day withdrawing money or selling his property because he suddenly needs money. So such are the things we find in the field. Changes in moods and personality is very common with those people who have dementia. They become irritable, depressed, anxious, confused, and then fearful. Those are, I'll just say a few of them because of time. Over to you, Mary.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nasri. Before you leave us for Ramadan issues, what would you advise us looking at where Kenya is? Some of the statistics you gave are really dire, and just recognizing that women 50. Somebody has asked in the question and answer, why not 45? Why not younger? And I think in my view is at least 15 to 49 women are taken care of, but beyond 50, we are on our own devices. Can we hear your views? And then I'll go around the panelists as we come towards the end. Over to you, Omar, Nasri.
Yes, thank you, Mary. I think I've put some of the responses in the chat, in the Q&A. So I'm going to, we've seen where the issues are coming from. Now, what do we do about it? I think that's where we are at. So one is we are talking about coping mechanisms. I think we hear a lot, coping mechanisms, but we don't know what it means. And we assume because Mary is running a marathon, I'll also try and run a marathon as a coping strategy. We don't know, she's been running for the last, I don't know how many years. So you need to evaluate your coping mechanism. You need to see what works for you. If everyone is going for a hike and hiking does not do anything for you, please don't go for that hike. Look at your coping mechanism. What works for me? How do I deal with stress? Already probably you're practicing it, you just don't know. And I think that's something also, I think Spinella talked about, being self-aware is very important. You need to know, what is it that I like? What makes my endorphins go up? What makes me happy? And if you're asked, are you happy? You know, what makes you happy? You're not able to give that definite answer. How do you take a break? What do you do when you take a break? When you take leave, what do you do? Do you go and start farming? Over 50s. You start doing other things when you take a break. Or are you resting? Are you doing, things which are, and maybe even farming is also maybe a coping mechanism for you. And it's different for even the different age groups. If you tell a young person that coping mechanism, we go to the farm, that's not a coping mechanism, that's work. I'm not going to work. So you see, you need to understand that the coping mechanisms are different for different people. And also you look at this positive and negative coping. So negative is like you're yelling, you're acting very aggressively, and before you had a very good relationship even with your children, with your spouse. Now, because you're not able to deal with all the stresses that you have, you're starting to, your behavior is actually changing. And one of the panelists talked about that. And people are like, what happened to you? We don't recognize you anymore. So it's withdrawing from family, isolation from friends. Some people resort to taking drugs. Some people resort to overeating or not eating at all or skipping some meals. So that's negative coping mechanism. If you look at positive now, which we are recommending, but as I said, you need to explore what works for you. I'll just say in summary what it's all about. In positive coping mechanisms, there is a wheel called the self-care wheel. Google it, please, read about it, see what works for you. There's physical self-care. What am I doing for my physical body? What are the needs of my body? Am I someone who loves exercise? Does exercise work for me? Does going to the gym, does going for a walk? But a lot of research is showing actually green spaces are very good for our mental health. Go and, and now with all the buildings that are coming up, there are no green spaces. You have to find those green spaces. You need to go and see nature. It really helps your mental health. Also emotional. If you look at emotional self-care, we are looking at issues about emotional awareness, self-awareness. How do I wake up in the morning? How is my mood today? How is my mood at the end of the day? What changed my mood? How do I deal with that? Then how do I manage stress? How do I manage anxiety? How do I talk with colleagues? How do I deal with difficult situations even at work or at home? Then self-compassion. You need to be kind first to yourself before you say even be kind to others. You need to say, this is a lot. I can't do all of this. You need to accept that a lot of things are challenging. I'm not able to do the things I used to do. And I need to accept that and probably seek for help where it's needed. Then you have mental self-care. Engage in activities about stimulating your intellectual capacity. And a lot of research even about dementia is showing that people who read, you delay your onset of dementia. Just reading books, it delays the onset of getting dementia. So doing puzzles, reading, doing mindfulness, meditation, that's prayers. Now, some people, meditation is for us, it's prayers. Praying is a very good coping mechanism, and setting boundaries. You should know, even if it's your child, even if it's your spouse, you need to say, no, I can't do that. This I can't do, even at work. I think this is important to set those boundaries. And that's really to protect your mental wellness. And that's one of the self-care strategies. Another one is social self-care. How are our relationships? Do you have friends? Do you have family? Do you have people you talk to, like even on a daily basis? Then social interaction, is there activities which bring you together socially? And then who are your support networks? Just write them down. Who are 5 people I can call right now? If I have any emergency, if I have any stress in my life, who can I call? And when you write the list and you realize I have no one, you need to start evaluating and saying, I need to build my social networks, because that's very important to think about. You're going to leave employment. Now your colleagues, the relationship is changing. And then there's finally the spiritual self-care. In our African setting, we cannot miss talking about that, because the issue about religion and mental health is very key. And a lot of solace people even get it from religion and reflect on a lot of things which happen in your life. You're like, this, for us, we say, this was already planned that it will happen. And it takes away a lot of, guilt that you might carry. So I think in summary, that's it. The work-life balance, transitioning to retirement. If you're always working, now when retirement is close, you need to have that transition plan. What will I do the whole day now that I'm almost retiring? My career is changing. Maybe I need to reduce my responsibilities. Taking breaks, delegate more roles. I think in summary, that is it. Also, there are roles which government should take up that I've seen in more developed countries they've done, where they even have social setups for women and people who are older people, so they don't lose that social interaction. So I think in summary, that's all I wanted to speak about. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much. As Eva and Gadesha and the others come in, our time is running out. Somebody has asked, are there positives in 50 plus? And I want to say yes, there are positives about 50 plus, the economic independence, the kids are gone, you are older, you are more aware of yourself, your self-confidence is there. But the issue we are raising is even all that comes with some other challenges. So Gladwell, Eva, and the rest, in 2 minutes or 1 minute, can you reflect on this? Because the question that has come, so that people, we don't want people to leave here saying 50 plus is problems, mental health issues. That's not what we are saying. So could you please comment on that, Dr. Gadesha, Dr. Njenga, because you are over 60, and then we'll hear this very briefly. Over to you, Dr. Njenga.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. And true, I like how Dr. Nasri has summarized this session. And about being 50, there are so many good things. And as long as, and what we need to do for ourselves, let's think about wellness checks. Because they are if you really take care of the physical well-being, and this can be checked, these are things that, mental health, sometimes you really have no lab types that you can go, x-rays that you can go and have done to be told whether you are mentally well or not. But at least physical wellness, which we know, and Dr. Gadesha said, the physical wellness is so interconnected with the mental well-being. So let's keep an eye on our well-being. And there are so many packages that are coming now, even our insurances that help us and allow us to go and have a physical well-being check. And the being 50, when you are physically well, you have chosen what makes you happy. If you don't want to go jogging, you want to go dancing. Some of us love dancing. Whatever makes you happy and whatever makes your body feel good, you have that chance to keep well. So I think there are so many things at 50 that can be done. And I've tried to answer as many questions in the Q&A, especially those involving the menopause. I've literally answered all of them. So if anybody has any more questions, at least with this forum, we can continue to address and answer those things. But I think menopause does not mean that it's a life of suffering. It is just another seniority. It's like you're being promoted to another level. In the Kikuyu culture, when a woman hit menopause, you really became like one of the elders. and you are allowed even in the men groups to go and give your opinions, because now you are supposed to be a learned person. You have all the experiences. So you have a lot of experiences, even above 50, that you can share with the younger people. Mentor, take a mentorship position to help other people from lived experiences. And the fact that we are connecting non-communicable diseases, even with mental health, and they are linked. These are issues that we can be talking about in your community, whether it is the church, whether it is your chama, wherever it is, even at workplace, to educate other younger women, so that they sometimes do not have challenges that maybe we face because of not being knowledgeable and not being informed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Gadesha, quickly, just a minute because of time. We will need to arrange for a more extended conversation on this. Over to you, Dr. Gadesha.
Okay, so I'll answer the same question, but my point of view is not personified, because I'm slowly angling towards there, but not there yet. So for me, I think what I see the great thing about being 50 is the self-awareness. For me, I think at that age, and it's something that keeps on coming in as you're aging and towards that peak. For me, I think that's one of the great things I foresee when I reach 50, just that peak of the pinnacle of self-awareness. And then I'd also like to think that there's a bit of easing of burden, but I know there might be that increased burden from caregiving of our parents, but I think the easing of the burden from the little ones. And what that does now, you do have more choice to take up healthier living. You're able to have more time to do your physical activity. You have more time to hopefully choose the right diet, because diet is a very key point when for physical health and eventual mental diseases. So for me, I see this age where we are finally in charge, and we can control our body in terms of what we are putting into it, what we are doing into it. And Mary, there's something we mentioned when we were 2 weeks ago, but which I really had to ask you, does that happen when you're 60? I won't repeat that, but I think 50 is a good year to be. Thank you.
You're
Mary,
muted.
you're
You're muted, Mary.
People have asked a lot about supplements. I think that's a discussion for another day, because we really do need to focus on that. Again, in terms of the changes, physical changes will happen as you age. So how to manage those is something that at our age we are managing. We haven't even talked about dealing with youth, your children, your grandchildren at our age, and that can also have challenges. So I think just to reassure members, we're not saying 50s are very difficult. We're just saying there are challenges that come with it that have a mental health component to it. Yes, quickly, Monica, over to you.
I don't want to repeat what the others have said, but I think the best thing, loneliness is the biggest causer, one of the biggest causer of dementia. So stay connected, buddies, look for them, at 50, you have that independence because you don't have children homework. You don't have that, they don't have those activities. So stay connected with your friends, revive them, be available. And I think Petrina said, if you don't have 4 friends or 5 friends, I don't know who shared that, evaluate that and do a journal and say, now I need to step up and call out the friends who I had when I got busy being a wife, a parent, and our career person. Look for them, because it's a lonely time not to have those parents, not to have a social life. A social life, revive it, and sleep is very important. You must make sure you sleep. It's 7 to 8 hours. Must sleep. Over to you.
Thank you, Petronila. One word, and then I'll allow Joanne to say a word before we close. Petronila, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I want to say that, remember, there is no chance to live life without stress. But you have the power to deal with it. Without stress, there is no growth. Learn to control and use it in your favor. Do not allow stress to put you down. It is okay not to be okay. It is okay to say no. It is also okay to reach out for help. It is okay to love yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Petronila. Thank you very much, participants. Joanne, you want to say a word before we close?
Yes, I would like to thank all of you for attending and participating in the webinar. And I know there are some people who raised their hands, and unfortunately time ran out before you were given time to respond, but don't worry about it. We will have a follow-up webinar on the same. And it's also important to note that at the end of the webinar, as we leave, there will be a pop-up of a survey with some questions, which I really request for you to respond, which will help us improve on our upcoming webinars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before you leave, could you please help us? We will have more focused webinars. I want to welcome you for my run, 60-kilometer run on Sunday, March 9th. Look out for AHD website, LinkedIn. The details are there. We are running for mental health of women 50+ miles for mental health. You're welcome to come and join us. May God bless you, and look forward to our next webinar, which will be in the next 6 weeks or so. Thank you very much, and God bless you.